Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video I'm going to be talking about The Keep, Volume 1 of the Adversary Cycle, originally published in 1981 by William Morrow and Company, written by F. Paul Wilson, clocking in at 406 pages. In this video we'll be taking a look at the Jove paperback edition, published in October of 1986. So this is the physical copy of The Keep, and I got this at Value Village. As soon as I saw it, I grabbed it, and I have to say the cover art for this book is awesome. The font for the title looks awesome. The cover art is awesome. I just love the look of the keep and the gloomy sky and everything. It's amazing for a horror book. And here's a look at the spine. Here's the back of the book. And this was a really good find. This was gold. That's the thing about these used thrift stores. You never know what's going to pop up there. That's why I always take a look at them. And sometimes you can find some really cool, really good stuff in there. So this is my physical copy of The Keep. The story takes place in a small village high in the Carpathian Mountains of Romania in 1941. It is also the location of a mysterious keep. A group of German soldiers set up an outpost in the village and decide to use the keep as their base of operations. However, strange deaths start to occur, and Captain Klaus Warman sends a request that him and his men be relocated. In response to this, the SS officer Erich Kampfer and his men are sent to the keep to investigate. All their attempts to discover the identity of their assassin fail. Then, the mysterious killer leaves strange writings scrawled across the wall. In their desperation to find the answers, they seek the help of a Jewish history professor, Theodor Kuza, and his daughter Magda. The answers to their questions will be beyond anything they have experienced, and much more frightening. So before I go into what I liked and didn't like about this book, I'll talk a bit about my background with it. So I became aware of this book through the film adaptation of it that came out in the 1980s. Now, the first time I had seen the film The Keep wasn't during the 80s, it was actually during the mid-2000s. And it was a movie I didn't know existed up until that point. I just stumbled across it in a video store, rented it, and really liked it. And I've watched it a few times since over the years. It's just one of those odd 80s films that's got like this bizarre quality to it. And when it came out, it flopped, but kind of grew to have this cult following over the years. Kind of like the 84 Dune film is what it reminded me of. It flopped, but it's one of those odd yet satisfying 80s films that I like to go back and rewatch every few years. So after I had seen the film, I learned that it was based on a novel and wanted to get my hands on the book. And so I kind of kept that in the back of my mind as time went on, but I never did see it pop up anywhere in bookstores. But eventually I did pick it up at Value Village, a used copy of it. Saw it there and grabbed it right away. So now I'll get into the book itself and some of the things I liked about the book and some of the things I didn't like about the book. So some of the things I liked about the book. Right away, I loved the time and setting that the story is set in. It's set during the Second World War. It's in the Carpathian Mountains, and you have these group of Nazis in it, and you have this Jewish professor, and you got all the World War II going on in the background and all the things that come along with that. And it just made for a really unique setting for a horror story. Unique to me anyway, because I've never read any horror book that took place in that time period and kind of had that political backdrop to it like this one did. So it made for a very interesting time and place to have this book set in, and I love that. But my favorite thing about this book, I have to say, was the two characters, the SS officer Erich and the German captain Klaus Warman. And they have they're almost like ideological opposites. They both have like similar visions for Germany, but they want to get there through different ideological means. The SS officer is very bloodthirsty, and he represents the worst of the worst of Nazi Germany. And what's interesting about Klaus Warman, he's a German soldier, but he's not a Nazi. He has not joined the Nazi party. And for that, he's kind of being punished by given all these crappy assignments and being kept down in rank, because he believes that the Nazi party is not good for Germany. And so this causes him to knock heads with this SS officer, as Warman thinks that the SS officer is nothing but a complete coward, because he's brave when it comes to helpless men, women, and children in concentration camps and things like that. But when it comes to actual fighting soldiers that shoot back, like what Klaus Warman has to face, the SS officer has no experience with that. So Klaus Warman has no respect for the SS officer and can't really hide it. And so that part of the book was really well done. And this battle that the two of them had, like the verbal dueling and all that stuff, was my favorite part of the book. And their different approaches to how to handle the situation with their men, as their men start to get killed off by this mysterious force that's inside this keep. It was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed that part of the book. Also, the character of Professor Kuza was really interesting. And all the interactions he has with this entity that's inside this keep, and his daughter Magda, who they have an interesting relationship. She's kind of looking after him. His health is really poor, so she's kind of like put her life on hold to help take care of her father. So that made for an interesting dynamic as well. And then, of course, there is the main evil character of the book, Molasar. Very interesting. I won't say too much about this, the evil in this book, because there's a few twists to it. But I'll just say that it was pretty interesting. Although there are some aspects to the film version of this character that I actually prefer to what I read in this book. Now, some of the things I didn't like about this book. So, as I said earlier, the first part of the book really focuses a lot on these two German soldiers that are clashing heads and aren't getting along, and they don't have any respect for each other, and they're like rivals. And they're trying to figure out how to stop their men from being killed. And the SS officer just is very, very arrogant and just wants to stay in the keep and not leave, but figure out what's causing it. Where the other German officer, he just wants to leave. He just says, like, we can't figure this out. Let's just, instead of, letting all of our men die, let's get the hell out of here. But he can't, because the other guy outranks him. So that was a good chunk of the first part of the book. It was very, very interesting. And also what's interesting, you have another mysterious character, Glenn, that seems to know a lot about this keep, that is traveling towards the Romanian village from another part of the world. So we kind of follow him and get to learn a little bit about him and what he's capable of as he's making his way across the country to the keep. And so you got this anticipation building. You can't wait till all these characters start to meet up. You have the Jewish professor, you have his daughter, and then you have this Glenn character that's on his way there, and you have this ideological battle between the two German officers. So now when Glenn shows up and he meets Magda, and their relationship starts to kick off in this book, I have to say that was kind of like in the middle of the book. That the story just came to a grinding halt. The romance between these two characters just didn't work for me at all. And once that starts up, the story kind of shifts away from the two German officers, and you don't really get to see much more of them fighting anymore. And I found that to be a real drag, and I started to kind of lose interest in the story, and I had no interest in the romantic relationship between these two characters. And on top of that, there are some, in my opinion, really cringy love scenes written for these two characters, like lovemaking scenes. I think like writing lovemaking scenes are very, very tricky. especially if you're going to try to make them graphic but still try to keep them romantic at the same time. It really makes for some cringy shit. So I didn't really care for that. So that all kind of happens in the middle of the book. And so that's the other second thing I didn't like about this book, is the middle part. It picks up, like, it takes off like a freight train. It's got a lot of steam at the first part, and when it hits the middle part and the story kind of focuses more on the daughter and Glenn, it really, really starts to drag. And so the middle part of the book starts to drag. And then as you get more towards the end and the conclusion, it starts to pick up again. Now, the other thing I was kind of disappointed in, this book isn't really that scary, in my opinion. Now, I'm got a thick skin. It's hard for these books to scare me, but there have been some horror books in the past that at least creeped me out. This never did this to me once. Not only that, it wasn't very gory compared to a lot of other books that I've read. So I like it when the books are disturbing and gory if they're not going to be scary. But this book really wasn't neither one of that. I thought it kind of lacked in that area. But I have to say, overall, it was a pretty good book. Now, it wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. I have to admit that. I was a little bit disappointed in the book. And there are some things in the movie that they changed from the book that I actually prefer about the movie over the book. But I can't really go too much into it because I don't want to spoil too much of the story. Because it mainly deals with Molasar and some of the twists and turns with that character that is different from the movie, or in how I interpreted the character from the film. Because the character is left a lot more mysterious in the movie, and it's a lot more explained and fleshed out in the book. But now, should you read this book? I would totally recommend this book. I thought it was a solid horror novel, and I really enjoyed it. And I guess it's there's more books to this. It's like a series of books, so I might actually track down the sequels to this and read them as well, and see what they're like. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.